Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
It's 6 p.m. in Douala, same time right there in Bamenda, chief town of the northwest region of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. First, our major stories. Honorable Laurentine Kouafege, the eldest member of parliament and CPDM elected official, questions the lack of transparency and independence of electoral institutions in the country. In an unexpected firm tone, the eldest MP challenged actors of the electoral system to be independent and transparent enough in order to avoid chaos in the upcoming presidential elections. And also we take you to sports, where President Samuel Eto'o Fils, who is a former football player and also Fecafoot's president, has been elected as president, has secured a seat in the Confederation of African Football Executive Committee by acclamation. The election took place today in Cairo, with the 44-year-old emerging as the sole candidate representing Central African region. Those are top stories. Stay with us for greater details. Once more, thank you so much for always choosing Equinoxe Television. I am Immaculate Fogwe. Beyond the civil society and opposition party leaders, senior elected officials in Cameroon are raising concerns with the level of transparency and independence of electoral institutions in the country. One of these unusual expressions came from Honorable Laurentine Kouafege, the eldest MP and CPDM elected official. In an unexpected firm tone, the eldest MP challenged actors of the electoral system to be independent and transparent enough in order to avoid chaos in the upcoming presidential elections. We have greater details with Fomi Armstrong Sander.
An unusual warning call to actors of the electoral system in Cameroon, a deep sinking interpellation from the eldest member of parliament, Honorable Laurentine Kouafege, who urged actors, notably the Elections Cameroon Elecam, the Constitutional Council, the civil society and the government of Cameroon to ensure that Cameroon does not fall into a bloodbath or chaos because of practical irregularities in the electoral process.
To all those involved, I say, those who are responsible for organizing, let them know how to organize in accordance with the established rules. Let those who have to judge say the law and nothing but the law. Let those who know how to mobilize, mobilize so that when the time comes, we beat all records for participation.
Afin d'éloigner de notre terre le spectre de la division.
One of the major concerns is the non-publication of the national list as required by Section 80 of the Electoral Code.
Till today, Elecam has violated that law, has not published the national list. We are waiting. It is a must for Elecam to publish the national list so that Cameroonians can consult and know the problems that they can find on the list, and again seize Elecam for corrections.
Another issue is the alleged manipulation of voter registration by Elections Cameroon. Many registered voters, including some 40 in Paris, France, claim that they haven't received their voters' card. This has sparked concerns about inconsistent registration periods and biased electoral processes.
We can only be on our knees asking Elections Cameroon to avoid chaos in 2025, because if those statistics are not available, it is an indicator that elections will be rigged.
The lack of independence in institutions like Elections Cameroon Elecam and the Constitutional Council is also a pressing concern.
Look, the National Assembly does not reflect the aspiration of the citizens. The Senate does not represent the aspiration of the citizens. The Elecam does not represent the aspirations of the citizens. The Constitutional Council does not represent the aspiration of the citizens. So all those are institutions put in place to serve a king.
Furthermore, Cameroon's electoral code has been criticized for being biased, with certain provisions favoring the ruling party and the incumbent president. This has led to accusations of electoral fraud and manipulation, eroding trust in the democratic process.
Tommy Armstrong Sander reporting then. Over to religion. The holy month of Ramadan, practicing Muslims fast from dawn to dusk for at least 29 to 30 days following the lunar calendar. However, children are exempt from fasting as some believe it may impact their studies. Malaglory spoke with an Islamic school teacher in Fumban, that is in the West region, and they'll be giving us more insights on what should be done by Muslims during this period. Her report.
While fasting is a fundamental right to all healthy adult Muslims, children are exempted, and many think imposing it on them, especially school-going age, will negatively affect their studies. At the Petilu Primary and Nursery School of Fumban West region, the effects of fasting is obvious. She says that she often finds these children sleeping in class and looking very tired, as some of them get up early every morning to start their fasting, a situation that has equally affected their health. The founder of the school, Lou Amadou, explained that they registered 2 collapse cases in the school campus last week. He took them to the hospital before informing the parents while advising them to leave the children out of the fasting. Undernourishment, hydration aggravated by heat increases their tiredness and slow down their learning process. All able-bodied adults, male and female, are required to fast. However, some children can fast according to Nji Mufti if they can stand the 30 days fasting without being interrupted. Some parents, therefore, need to evaluate the consequences of the fasting on their children before imposing them to fast during the holy month of Ramadan.
Finally, we take sports. Cameroon's Samuel Eto'o has been voted as member into the executive committee of the Confederation of African Football. This was during the 14th Extraordinary General Assembly meeting of CAF in Cairo, Egypt. The meeting also saw a reflection of Dr. Patrice Motsepe for another 4-year mandate as CAF's president. Back at home, many have expressed mixed reactions. Smaji Kangebel spoke to some sports journalists who put together the following report.
By acclamation, that the president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Samuel Eto'o, was voted into the Executive Committee Bureau of the Confederation of African Football, CAF. His election has generated mixed feelings back at home.
It's a good thing that a Cameroonian is still maintained in the executive body of CAF, but then it's a diplomatic win that Samuel Eto'o is getting into the executive body of CAF, and we wish him the best of luck.
It is going to permit him to put into practice all he wished for African football. There have always been a problem on the stability of the calendar of African competition, and I think with his passion he can help and bring changes.
Eto'o's election into the CAF Executive Committee permits Cameroon to keep a place in the Executive Committee of the Confederation of African Football. We know that in the last mandate, Seydou Boumondje represented Cameroon, and now it's Samuel Eto'o representing Cameroon in the CAF zone.
Samuel Eto'o's election into CAF executive body for a sport journalist is a personal achievement.
Moving from superstar of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon to president of Cameroon Federation and now member of CAF Executive Committee. So I think the yields are personal before being that of Cameroon. So the main thing will be the image of Cameroon. That's going to be the reason brought up at the international level.
While others says he can also integrate the FIFA board, and from there is a platform for him to continue representing and portraying African football to the rest of the world. I think it's a good thing for African football to have him. Another sport journalists have sent this message to Samuel Eto'o.
We should begin rethinking that back home Cameroonians are crying. from the heart of the wilderness, Cameroonians are heartbroken, and we hope that while it goes off to CAF, he should come back and have a rethink on how to redo the damage that he has done today.
5 other members from Ghana, Liberia, Tanzania, Algeria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo were also voted by acclamation, while 6 members were elected, with all being automatic members of the FIFA board.
And that sports element done by Smart KINANG Derick ends this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Those who have the mandate to organize election should organize election as stipulated by the law. Those who are entrusted with the responsibility of handling electoral disputes should settle such disputes according to the law. Those whose task is to mobilize the population should mobilize the population to vote massively as never before. Those whose vocation is to pray should do so, commit Cameroon to God, and pray against the spirit that causes division and the works of the devil. These are some of the demands made by the eldest member of parliament, Laurentine Kouafugu. To analyze this recent outing made by this eldest member of parliament, I'll be having as guest Dr. KINANG Derick FAI. He is a political scientist. Good evening, Doctor. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Greetings, Madam Immaculate Fogwe, and thanks for having me on Talking Point on Equinoxe TV. Greetings to your viewers all over the world. Greetings to the entire Equinoxe family. It's always a pleasure to be here to share my thoughts on burning issues affecting Cameroon, Africa, and why not the world at large, with the objective of ensuring nation building in our beloved country.
Doctor, I would like to know from you, what explains this unusual outburst of Honorable Laurentine Kouafugu, considering that she is a CPDM member of parliament, and such critical declarations are uncommon with CPDM elected officials and supporters. Don't you think so?
Yeah, concerning your question as to what explains the outburst of Honorable Laurentine Kouafugu, considering the fact that she is a CPDM MP, I think there are a couple of points you can bring on board to explain this outburst, amongst which I can maybe pick out 2. The first thing you want to note is the pre-electoral context in which we find ourselves. We are in a context in which Cameroon is preparing for a presidential election, the highest election in the country. And experience and observation is of the opinion and clearly showing that there is an upsurge in hate speech, incitement to violence, xenophobia, tribalism, negative tribalism, so to say, as a result of this pre-electoral period. So it's just very common for us to see an MP who, remember, he is the legislative arm of the government, come out to bring out some of these things, because that is the context we find ourselves. You also want to note that we are in a situation in which Cameroonians are facing a lot of challenges meeting up with their daily subsistence. So any Cameroonian that is patriotic, living in this country and is conscious of the common realities of the common man in Cameroon can only but say things the way Honorable Laurentine Kouafugu did. So to me, I don't think it's something that is strange. It's just somebody that is faithful to herself, added to the fact that she is a doyen in the domain, in the political landscape, and so has very little or nothing to lose when it comes to saying certain realities about the country.
Now, it's true that her vocal and critical declarations or stance in Parliament did not begin today. We remember her stance on the COVID-19 gate, Martinez Zogo affair, the AFCON gate, and many others. What do you think must have changed with this declaration? Are you sure things will change?
Yes, you are right to say Honorable Laurentine Kouafugu has always been the way she is when it comes to decrying some of these issues. Like you rightly mentioned, the COVID-19 case and the Martinez Zogo case, we saw how she came out to decry certain things. So it's but common with her, and we want to find out what will really change. Personally, I think not much is going to change, and if something is going to change, it's going to be based on the fact that the things she has decried, which is turning around the presidential elections that are forthcoming are things that will be taken seriously, because the government and the powers that be, they've already seen a forefront of what the atmosphere of Cameroon in the days ahead is going to look like. So she coming out to decry some of these things, it is but certain some of these things will be taken seriously, because we are at the crossroad of a situation in which the country is becoming more and more fragile. The country is becoming more and more divisive when it comes to the exercise of politics, which in reality is just supposed to be a fair game or a fair art for proper governance of the country. So I think this time around we are experiencing a situation in which we might have certain things come to be taken into consideration, though not much, but just those things that the powers that be feel, if they should take them into consideration, it's going to be for their own betterment.
Now, her outing isn't an isolated case, as we saw the case of late Chief Victor Mokete, who also took the same position at the Senate before he died with regards to the way the government was handling the Anglophone crisis. Should we be talking of truth at old age in the CPDM, or let's say some sort of political distraction?
Sure, before Honorable Laurentine Kwa, we've seen others of the CPDM mount the rose room, come to the public to make certain declarations that are strong when it comes to the realities around the party. You rightly mentioned late Senator Mokete, Chief Mokete, may his soul rest in peace. I can also mention the likes of Justice Ayapol Abini. You can also mention the recent case of Senator Mbela Mukichas. So personally, to me, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. You want to say these persons, when they are already on their way out of the political stage, they begin to feel like they have nothing to lose, and so they have to say it the way they see it. You want to follow that to now say maybe it is truth at old age, because coincidentally, so to say, most often it has been the old age wings of the CPDM that comes out to make some of these declarations. You hardly see the youthful population of that party doing such. But on the other side, we want to do a nuance to this argument by simply making it crystal clear that whether we like it or not, within the ranks of the CPDM ruling party, we still have some very patriotic and truth-centered Cameroonians that usually come out to say it the way they see it. So it has little or nothing to do with the aspect of age or truth at old age. But most often we want to say the silence is as a result of wanting to respect party disciplines, which it is just us not refusing to listen. Many of these CPDM militants, they usually say it the way they see it, in a very subtle and friendly way. There are so many of them that say it, but not in the vocal violence and using the same channel that we see these old age politicians use when they want to talk about the realities of Cameroon.
Now, let's look at this other aspect. Given the hyper-centralization of the state and the appointment system, can we truly expect impartiality from judges and electoral organizers in this country?
No, personally, if I want to be sincere with myself, I want to sincerely remain skeptical when it comes to issues around impartiality of judges and the electoral system in Cameroon. Like you rightly said, it's a centralized system. There is no perfect system on planet Earth. Let's be very frank with that. And unfortunately, we live in a country in which the mentality is still that of politics is a dirty game. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Like late Prime Minister Simon Achidiaju rightly made it. So you want to go from that standpoint to strongly believe that we are in a system in which we are yet to have a purely independent judiciary and a purely independent electoral system. Because when you look at the modus operandi, the organization and functioning, the way, the environment and the leverage that has been given to this structure, it becomes very difficult for them to be totally independent. all these, we must sincerely say, is a fair game. We're in the game of politics, and so people use all possible measures. So long as they don't go to extreme cases, they use all possible measures to take, maintain, and exercise power to their best. So I will be very surprised if we come across a situation in which we follow the wishes of Honorable Laurentine, because she made it crystal clear. She wants a situation in which those that are mobilizing mobilize the right way, those that are judging when it comes to litigation should judge the right way, and those that are in charge of the electoral process should do fairness in the way they go about it. I want to strongly do an inference to say that had it been things were perfect, I don't think the Honorable would have come out to decry some of these things. As somebody that is there to observe government action, she herself must have noticed these things are not the way they are supposed to be, and she's calling on the powers that be to make it the way it's supposed to be. And we just hope it works, though for now, I choose to be skeptical.
The Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party has been working on the ground for some time now to ensure that Elecam publishes the name of registered voters on the site. The party wrote to Elecam board, no response. They later took the case to the Constitutional Council and later to the Court of Appeal, and they all said they weren't competent to handle the case. Who has the competence to ask the elections governing body, Elecam, to publish the names of potential voters on the electoral list? And do you share the same view of some other critics who think Elecam is trying to hide something from the Cameroonian population?
Yeah, personally, when you ask the question as to what the Cameroon Renaissance Movement is going through, and you want me to say who has the competence to declare issues around the electoral list, I become a bit confused, because if one of the highest legal institutions of Cameroon, the Constitutional Council, it's unable to put a stamp to all of this, the appeal court comes and is saying they are incompetent. Maybe we want to try the Supreme Court and see what it holds. And when you say Elecam are they hiding something? Personally, Immaculate, I'm not a soothsayer and can't say for sure whether Elecam is hiding something or not. But what I can say concerning your question is it's really a pathetic situation when we have a party like the Cameroon Renaissance Movement having to go behind these persons to have them do what they are supposed to do as stated by the law. So if I want to bring a direct answer to your question, you rightly said before that Cameroon is a hyper-centralized system. So I think if we are unable to get the answer from the legislative arm, and most especially those in charge of the electoral process in Cameroon, we want to go somewhere else to get that answer. And that will be no other place than the executive. So I think His Excellency President Paul Biya, when you look at the specific case of Cameroon, is the person that has the answer to that question, that has the competence to say it the way it is supposed to be done. I strongly believe if he comes out today and tells Elecam, I want the electoral list published in 1 week, we are going to have it.
And is it accurate for Honorable Laurentine Figure to call President Paul Biya as an architect of democracy in this country?
Yeah, I think, personally, I think she is not 100% wrong to call Paul Biya the architect of democracy in Cameroon. To me, from my own standpoint, I have always believed we have at least 4 actors to whom you can attribute the democratic process of Cameroon to. First, I want to cite His Excellency President Paul Biya, because he is the head of the executive. He is the one leading the system as of now. So if democracy, though not perfect, could be experienced in Cameroon, is simply because somewhere along the line, the person in charge of the system let it happen. Secondly, I think another architect we want to bring on board is the opposition, and most especially Nijon Fundi, may his soul rest in peace. They fought hard to have democracy come to Cameroon. It was not given to them on a platter of gold. So limiting the advent of democracy in Cameroon to the personality of just His Excellency President Paul Biya, personally to me, I don't think it's the right thing. And the third category of actor you want to bring to consider as those responsible for the advent of democracy in Cameroon are Cameroonians themselves, whether we like it or not, there were a reasonable amount of Cameroonians that were bagging me John Fundi when they came out to preach in favor of democracy in Cameroon. And you discover that it was due to that pressure that was coming up from the people that I think at some point in time the president saw it right to be in the right side of history, like he said, to accept it. And finally, you want to note the international community. Whether you like it or not, Cameroon is existing in the international community, and at times external factors play a strong one. And with this specific case, the political history of Cameroon tells us external actors were very involved. So BIS an architect of democracy, but not alone, because we have other actors that could be brought on board to explain the advent of democracy in Cameroon.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for accepting my invitation on Talking Point tonight.
Thank you too so much, Immaculate, for having me on Talking Point. It's always a pleasure sharing my thoughts. I just hope they go a long way to edify Cameroonians, and it goes a long way to make Cameroon a better place, because our objective of always coming out to say these things is not to push Cameroon towards the wrong path, but rather to ensure that we build a Cameroon that is prosperous and a Cameroon that is perfect for each and every Cameroonian citizen the best way we can. Again, thank you for having me.
Dr. KINANG Derick FAI, political scientist based in Yaoundé. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay with us for more interesting programs as Serge Alain Otu and his guest comes up in some few minutes with the program Equinoxe Soir. From us to you over there, have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye for now.